for this session, which, well, I believe is going to be a very insightful and a very captivating session on this subject, which is often, misunderstood, invokes a mix of awe and curiosity. The spiders. This event marks a very special moment for us here at Jim's Jungle Retreat, as this year we are also celebrating our 20 years of dedication to the rewilding of our cherished piece of land, this place that we call Jim's Jungle Retreat. Before we start today's topic, please allow me to share a little bit about the journey and the inspiration about this online platform that we call the Jungle Secrets. Our journey started about 25 years ago when Mr. I.P. Singh, who is the founder, and his son, Dilip Akoe, they embarked on a mission that would eventually transform this 13.5 acres of degraded agricultural land into a thriving conservation sanctuary. This land, nestled against the buffer zone of Govt Tiger Reserve in village Dela, was once plagued with man-animal conflict. The farmer who used to, be here, the yield of the agricultural effort was very poor. When this land was bought, the vision and the passion and an unwavering commitment to conservation, what we started as a rewilding initiative 20 years ago, has now blossomed into a lush mixed forest habitat teeming with wildlife. The rewilding efforts included the careful plantation of local flora, trees, shrubs, grasses, all of which continues to be nurtured, especially during the monsoon season, that is this season, which also happens to be a lean season for us. We have a number of water holes at the property that attract a lot of creatures from the nearby forest. So the land that was once deprived of any biodiversity now teems with biodiversity. And what kind of a biodiversity that we are talking about? The rewilding effort has yielded in last 20 years about 250 plus species of birds that we have recorded at the property, over 80 species of butterflies. We are proud to say that recently, one of the peer-reviewed publications on butterflies that added about 10 species of butterflies to Govt Tiger Reserve had 4 species which were, photographed for the first time for the area at Jim's Jungle Retreat. We have about 20 plus species of mammals that we have recorded at the property. Small mammals, civets, mongooses, porcupine, Indian hare, and of course, spotted deer, Asiatic golden jackal, and so on. But the big mammals are not too far away. We often hear alarm calls on the other side of the fence, where we know that the predator, either the tiger or the leopard, is on the move. So as we commemorate this milestone, we are excited to launch Jungle Secrets, a series of expert-led sessions that draw upon our extensive learnings from the past 20 years of rewilding. These sessions will take us into the fascinating world of creatures that call our forest home, offering both knowledge and inspiration to our audience. And what better way to kick off this series than by exploring the mysterious and often misunderstood world of spiders. So it is with great pleasure that we introduce our guest speaker, for today, Devi Priyadarshini. We are deeply honored to have Devi with us, and we extend our heartfelt thanks to her for taking the time to share her expertise with us. Devi is a scientist at the Regional Museum of Natural History, working with the Government of India, and brings with her 5 years of dedicated field experience. Her professional journey is as diverse as it is impressive. Before her current role, Devi spent 8 years in the fields of nature education and natural history interpretation. Her work has taken her from the role of a forensic biologist at the Central Forensic Science Laboratory under the CBI in the New Delhi, where she served the Ministry of Home Affairs, to the Wildlife Institute of India, where she contributed to the translocation of tigers in the Panna landscape, exploring the intricate biology of big cats in a reserve forest. Currently, Devi is focusing her research on the spiders of Orissa, with a special emphasis on behavioral diversity and natural history in paddy fields. Her passion for these eight-legged creatures and her deep understanding of their behavior make her the perfect guide to lead us through today's session. So today's presentation, titled The Mysterious Life of the Web Designers, promises to be a journey into the intricate and often hidden lives of spiders. I will now hand over the baton to Devi, who will take us through the mysterious life of this incredible web designer. I hope everybody enjoys this session, and thank you for joining. Over to you, Devi. Narendran.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. That was a very humble introduction. And I'm so glad that this monsoon afternoon, so many people have come together. Although it's a virtual platform, we don't expect much people to turn up. I'm glad people are there and they are interested to listen to critters and the stories that revolve around the not so fancy animals in this animal kingdom. I would like to start on a very interesting note that however beautiful cuisines we may serve our guests, if there is the loss or the absence of a pinch of salt, how would the cuisines taste? You know? So sometimes we ignore the importance of the tiny tots or the little creatures around us, but we do not realize that those are the ones who would actually complete our ecosystem. In fact, without them, probably running the whole ecosystem is a Herculean task. It's almost not possible. Let's go a little deeper to find out how and what about these eight-legged creatures. Let me start giving you a little bit of a hint how arachnids came to be known as arachnids and why that name. So this dates back to a Greek story, like many other stories are related to the Roman and Greek stories which we have heard, the legends and the tales. So there were these gods who was called Athena. She was one of the most skillful weavers amongst her contemporaries. And she once threw a challenge to a, I'm not sure if the whole screen is visible because this is there. Okay. So if there is a obstruction because of this panel, please let me know. Yeah, so Athena was supposed to be from the gods and Arachne, her contemporary, was from the mortals. So there was a tusky fight between both the women who were skillful weavers. And Athena threw a challenge to Arachne: if she could win, if she could weave better, then she would do whatever uh, was there in the counter bargain. The day arrived and both of them started weaving, and Arachne wove much better than Athena could. And out of sheer jealousy, Athena turned Arachne into a creature which would hang by threads. So this story basically gives the name of Arachna or Arachne to spiders, which is since when these creatures were known as arachnids. So the weaves or the threads, like the topic just suggested that they are wonderful weavers, came from this particular art of weaving silk or just weaving threads. Later on, these animals were formed into a group who would mostly build webs or silk or even retreats out of very fine natural fiber, which is how they were all teamed into arachnids. So I always present this slide in the beginning. How many of the people there in the crowd are actually arachnophobic? Well, all of us have some phobia or the other. But when spiders come into the picture, because they are crawling all the time, most of us do not feel like going close or even touching it. If it's a butterfly, many of us would go and like to tap or touch it. If it's a bug, also many of us would go close. But if it's a spider, because it has got spiny legs and big eyes and crawly legs, we won't go or venture close to the animal. Also because of many disbeliefs, I would say that if they touch the spider, those spines would get into the skin, some infection happens. If they bite, sometimes we may fall sick or there is inflammation or so on and so forth. I won't say that all spiders would bite and nothing happens. I won't say that. But most of the spiders, at least in the Indian landscape, whatever we have seen, unless and until they are the big hairy-legged tarantulas, most of the spiders would be not harmful for human beings. So I have personally been bitten by spiders. So I can say that very confidently that they are not fatal, at least, like most of the disbelief goes around. But when you go into different continents like Africa, in Australia, the Sydney funnel web spider, there is the black widow spider, the redbacks, they have potential toxins and they can cause harm, potentially dangerous spiders, which are available in the rainforest, some in the deserts, like I said. Even the Brazilian spiders, some of them are potentially harmful. But if you look at the number of species of spiders which are there and the number of species of spiders which can be potentially venomous or dangerous for humans, it won't even be 1%. So practically, there won't be a reason we should be afraid of them. And arachnophobia is just in our minds. We have already told you why this phobia mostly happens amongst all of us. And some also believe that if there is some fecal matter of the spider which you touch, then there could be some infections which happen, which is completely false. Those will be guanine drops and some white spots, which are actually the fecal matter. They do not urinate like most of us think. I mean, many would think. They do jump around, they can crawl, and sometimes be at wrong spots. Like some of my friends were driving, their cars had spiders inside them hiding, and they would jump onto the face. That could be a tricky situation, I would say. But then, most of the times, these animals are completely harmless. But do not go ahead and slap a spider with a slipper or a chappal or something just because it freaks you out. Instead, if you can uh, make a little time over there, just look at its behavior, just observe the animal. I'm sure you will be surprised to see how intricate their behavior is. Whether they are feeding, whether they are cleaning themselves, of which I'll show you little snippets through my videos, or even they are trying to spin the silk to create a web. All of those acts are simply stupendous to watch. Amazing behavior. That is the little poem which we have always read, heard, and even teach our children. Quite famous one. I'm sure many of you must have heard about it. But it is not just these dark stories that lace the world of the spider. There are many interesting stories or fables, I would say, in the folk tales, which also give you a very positive, the positive light in which spiders were seen. There used to be a king who lost in a war, and at night when he was resting in his cave, on the top right corner, you can see that little picturization of the whole story. He looks at a spider which tries to build the web. A web which is basically the tool with which the spider would feed itself. So it kept on constantly weaving small, tiny threads, and almost the whole evening went away, and it kept on weaving. So sometimes it would fall down, sometimes it would rise up and stick the threads into the proper place. The king kept on looking at the animal and saw that if a tiny spider could have so much patience to make such a huge, beautiful geometric structure, then probably me being a human should have way much more courage, way much more willpower to overpower whatever has been bugging me. So he changed, he transformed his thoughts, and that led him, that little piece of inspiration watching a spider spin his web, its web, was a piece of inspiration which led him to again muster strength and go back to fight. Okay, coming to a little bit of science around these animals. So this is an interesting thing I want to tell you here. How many of you have heard about king crabs? Let's say horseshoe crabs. May not be king, but horseshoe crabs. I'm not able to see the answers though, but you can still type out some quick replies in the message box or the chat box. So mostly people in the coastal areas, like my state is in the east coast of India, they would be able to understand when I say what are uh, king crabs or horseshoe crabs. These are mostly living fossils. But although crabs is there in their name and they have 10 legs, not like the spiders which have 8 legs, they are very close to the arachnids. So DNA analysis suggests that Xephosura order, which actually holds the living fossils or the king crabs or the horseshoe crabs, is more close to Arachnida than Crustacea or Decapoda or Chilopoda or the rest. So that is one bit of information which is very interesting, because they have evolved from these particular arachnids and have been developed or been evolved to acclimatized to the marine or the shorelines of the coastal areas. Mostly, many of us know them as limulus, but limulus is the American version of the horseshoe crabs. In India, we have got Tachypleus. Tachypleus tridentata and Gygus, 2 species. One more is Carcinoscorpius rotundicoda. So these 3 species are there in the Indian coast, and they are closer to the spiders than any other order under Arthropoda. So Arthropoda, like we know, is the largest of all phyla. In fact, this is how it looks like when you divide them. Mr. Sharma was trying to detail about the vertebrates and the butterflies they have tried to enumerate. I'm so glad there are some natural studies going on. We would be glad to add our wisdom there and even help them. But this is how it looks like. When you look at phylum Arthropoda, from Arthropoda, this is the division. This much part, or 70% and more, is taken up by insects, and 8%. The arachnids form almost 7 to 8% of the whole division into which the animal kingdom has been divided. And this is where the diversity of the spiders stands. So currently we have almost 52,240 species as of what we had found in the month of June 2024. In India, we have got 1,954 species of spiders, whereas worldwide it is 52,240 species under 134 families. In India, we have only discovered 62 families. So Indian spiders or Indian arachnology has got a long, long way to go ahead in discovering, in finding more number of species which inhabit our landscapes than what is done till date. These are some of the other critters which you find under class Arachnida, and spiders and scorpions happen to be the most known and the most prominent ones in the whole class. Most of these one would not encounter. I'm sure many of you are working as naturalists or have walked nature trails or the forest, the pugdundis. Many of you must have seen scorpions. Some of you must have seen the sun spiders. Some of you must have encountered the mites, and all of you must have seen spiders. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so when you walk a forest in a typical winter morning, when there is dew all around, most of you would walk into the web of a spider which just comes and bangs on your face. So if that has not happened, you haven't walked the jungles enough. Okay. So that is something which happens very commonly. And that tells you that you are in a real forest. Because in the evenings, most of the spiders would build those webs across vegetation until morning. They mostly digest it back, would pull it back. Sometimes they are left just like that, which is how you face them right on your face, literally so. Okay, we'll not go into the lot of technical details, but yeah, it is more about the figure 8. So if you look at the spider, they are the body is made up of two parts. Okay, so that looks like a small figure 8 if you omit the legs. Also, they have got 8 eyes prominently. We have 6-eyed creatures also, no-eyed spiders also, the cave-dwelling spiders, but largely they are 8-eyed and 8-legged. So the figure 8 has got a lot to do with the spiders. Okay, these are some of the close-ups we have tried to show you. And Scytodidae is a family which you can commonly encounter. If we sometime have a chance to walk a forest trail looking at spiders, I will be happy to show you how different they are and how nicely they would camouflage in their own habitat where you can't even make out that they are existing. So the other fun fact about spiders is that they do not eat their meals. They would just slop it away, or they would digest externally. That is, pushing out some kind of secretive enzymes from their mouth. They would actually try and digest it outside their body and then just quickly suck it up. That is how the spiders would mostly take their meal. So sometimes we have seen that spiders are there with a catch in the center of their web. Very commonly seen, observation. If you are a little intent with a little, close observation, if you can intently watch a spider, you would be easily getting to see this. But what we think is they would munch on their meal. That does not happen. Almost all the spiders would mostly just suck it up with protein digestives which are secreted onto the animal or the prey. So these are mygalomorphs, which I should touch upon because they are the large-bodied animals. Sometimes these animals, when they bite, there could be inflammation, there could be some kind of infection. Many areas in India have reported deaths, but they have not been ascertained to be that of spider bite origin. So a lot remains to be studied in this particular aspect, but most of the large-bodied animals also which are present in India are not fatal, is what I would say. So we should not try to handle them. They would be there as arboreal creatures on the trunk of the tree, mostly bark dwellers, sometimes on the ground, many times underneath moss, which is there on the tree trunk, and different places where you can actually see them. So bamboo forests have got a lot of mygalomorphs, which you can find. And sometimes very unknown areas, very unexpected areas, they will be there. In the mud holes, if you walk forest trails, there are mud, walls on the sides, which is sometimes vegetation laden and sometimes barren. So those will be having coin-shaped structures, which is basically a trapdoor's door. So if we have more sessions like this, we will go deeper into how they would make their nests. The ground spiders mostly would create a tunnel into the mud wall, and they would close it or conceal the front of it or the top of it Well, we haven't seen spiders more than 8 legs. Ajay sir says somewhere he has seen something more than 8 legs. So it's not more than 8, sir, must be an illusion. So yeah, they would conceal it nicely with a fine silk layer, and that would act as a door. So they would jump out of it, catch the meal, and then push themselves back. That is how they are called as trap door spiders. They have a door to themselves, to their tunnel, which actually closes and opens. Okay, it's very interesting to see if you can find one. गोविंद से फोन करे कथा ହେଇଯିବ गोविंद ଚାଲିବ ସାର ରିମୋଟରେ କଲେ ଚାଲିବ so yeah, I'm not sure why it is not changing. Okay, all across the world, if you look at how tarantulas are treated, now this is a very different story we are getting into, but parts of Africa, some parts of the Western countries also, they have uh, tarantulas as pets. Many of them would eat them as a platter. I mean, it's a little gross when we talk about this, but you can see there is a Tarantula Keeper's Guide, which is available as a book. The one which is there on the right side is a tattoo on the shoulder of a person. And the other picture shows you a delicacy which has been made out of megalomorphs. So yeah, different parts of the world, you see the animal in very different perspectives. But most prominently, what we are trying to tell you is these animals need protection. They must not be used for pet trade. And India, basically, like it has already put a foot forward in conservation, must label at least the large-bodied spiders under some schedule of the Wildlife Protection Act, which is, I think, started for few of the Poecilotheria genus species, but it should go ahead and also encompass all other large-bodied animals which are profusely used again in pet trade. So many of us may not realize, but spiders around us are being siphoned into other countries so that people can keep them as pets. They are absolutely not pet material. Okay, so the venomous ones, like I've already mentioned, the red widow in Africa, brown widow spider, which we do not surely know whether they have venom potential to cause enough harm. The Sydney funnel web, of course, we have got a lot of cases from the Sydney funnel web in Australia. The black widow, Latrodectus mactans, brown recluse again, and Brazilian wandering spiders, like I have told you. So in India, probably we have some of these megalomorphs, not the ones listed here, but the megalomorphs, like I have said, which can cause serious bites and infections with inflammations. But we are yet to find any spider which causes fatal reactions in the body of human beings. So although the death by a widow spider would be very rare occasion, but there have been cases in the African continent where we have seen neurotoxic venom causing the potential harm to human beings after a spider bite. And the more famous thing is these animals or this particular species under Theridiidae family is thought to be cannibalistic. So we will look at a few characters of spiders ahead in the presentation, which are typically interesting. So many of us know that they are cannibalistic and they would eat up the male, like it's famously known after mating happens. But that is not the case with all the spiders. Some of them do that. This is the black widow spider we have been talking about. Against this, which is seriously venomous, we have a pretty non-venomous spider also. This is very much found in India, and we have them in multiple number of species occurring almost everywhere. In fact, if you've got a rocky shelf or your garage space, you know, all the underside of the cemented areas, whatever is there in your house, you can just go and look. There'll be a little white spider, which makes a criblet web, a very uneven, irregular web, and it keeps sticking in the prayer pose. So the spiders, what they do is they would hold both the hands together, particularly this particular family, and they would just project them to the front. That's typically like they would join hands in the prayer pose like a mantis. So they would be seen in a prayer pose most of the time. That is the hackled orb weaver from family Uloboridae. We will not go into too much of jargon of the families because I'm not sure how aware or arachnologically aware all the people in this crowd are. So we'll just talk on the surface. This is one very interesting fact I would like to share with all of you. Like we see the human male and the human female, male tiger and the female tigress. Let's say a hippo, both male and female, a monkey, male and female. Here is a spider, a male and a female. So if you can see closely, look into the picture, the larger spider which is there spreading all its arms, the very famous black giant wood spider. This is Nephila, and there riding on its back is a tiny little golden colored spider which I've tried to focus in another picture. That is the male of this huge spider which can almost take the size of your palm. Okay. Okay, I need to check. Something is there in the. Yes. So Dilip says that the last slide had an image of a skink or a lizard on the spider web. So spiders have been infamous for trying to hunt down so many other animals. This particular animal on your screen, which is a Nephila, can actually catch tiny birds like the sunbirds sometimes, frogs, skinks sometimes, or even lizards, like you saw in the previous slide correctly. Those animals, one of my friends asked, "Saap kahan se gir sakta hai?" So it so happens that in vegetation, when they build the webs across trees, these animals which would have sometime climbed the branch, sometimes get stuck into these. Birds, you can understand, would go and just glide across and they would be stuck because what we are talking about are spiders. These are the only animals on the planet which can weave the strongest and the toughest natural fiber, which is spider silk. Okay, we'll come to that a little later, which is why they are called the wondrous weavers. They can just weave fibers as strong, not as strong, stronger than what a similarly ductile steel wire would be, or even kelver for that matter. They are so strong, which is why the next generation bioengineering is aiming towards making bullet-free jackets out of spider silk. They have the power to hold back bullets if they are knitted and woven in the right texture. Also, we are using them for, how do I say? In medical science, they are being used to stitch organs together because it is natural fiber. You do not need to again open up the organ and check if the threads have been pulled apart or not. So a lot of bioengineering happening with spider silk. A lot of research is also going on. In Southeast Asia also, quite many researchers are there who are knocking their heads into this particular aspect. And this is one of the futuristic, model organisms and material which can be highly experimented upon to find out further uses in, in human domain. So coming back to the dimorphism or the sexual dimorphism, which we say in biology. This little tiny creature, which looks so big in this photograph, is mostly size of your thumbnail. Okay. The length would be somewhere this much, and it rides upon the female like this. And this is exactly the mating posture of Nephila with the male. So what happens is, you can ask me, why is the male supposed to be so tiny? Nature has got weird and crazy ways of expression, I would say. Mostly, Nephila is one of the engineers of its tiny ecosystem which runs around it. Okay. So this silk which they knit is actually golden yellow in color. And most of you can see it. It's a very common spider. When you walk into the forest and you find a huge, and it is not small in size, there is no chance that you can miss it. Sometimes the webs will span almost 3 meters in diameter and would be joining two vegetation, I mean, two trees in the vegetation across a pagdandi or a forest path. So there is no way you can miss it. Sometimes when you go close, we have seen episodes when Nephila comes around and cleans its web. So that whole web is sometimes laced with dust, with falling leaves, some kind of debris material. So because silk is precious to the spider, they would simply come and try and throw those things away. With this particular creature only, there are interesting evidences and videos which support the idea that if the material which is caught in the web is not particularly food for the spider, they would simply let go of the animal. Unlike human greed, kuch aata hai free to aane do. They do not believe on this particular theory. So there was one instance of frog got stuck. Like there are arboreal frogs and they can always jump. So it got stuck. Now this spider realized, went carefully, tried to inspect all around the frog and see that this is something sticky and that is something it is not palatable for it. So it just went around, plucked all the strings apart, I mean the silk apart, and just let it free. This has been captured in video. So yes, with that particular silk, not just one spider sustains itself with food, there are so many kleptoparasites, which means other than the female Nephila and the male who exist there, there'll be multiple males, of course, not just one. There are so many other tiny spiders which take refuge in that hugely built web. So when there is something which is so strong, nature always designs it such that nothing of it goes to waste. So whatever meal comes for Nephila, I mean, it gets stuck there, is also predated upon or eaten upon by the other tiny animals which are there around. Sometimes there are tiny insects which get stuck. Nephila won't care because it's such a huge spider. It needs something which is bulkier to feed itself. So all those tiny other animals which are stuck or the other insects which are stuck is taken up by those kleptoparasites who also take shelter along with Nephila in its own web. So they are greatly generous creatures, you see. They can just go ahead and help other animals sustain themselves. Okay, coming to identifying spiders, we have, like I said, 34 different families. Sorry, 134 different families across the world, 62 different families in India. But most prominently around your homes, you would find at least 5 to 10 different families, which is easily identifiable and you can make out. One is the jumping spider, the ones which have got huge goggle eyes and which will be looking straight into you. Here in the center, here it is, Salted City, if you can mark my pointer. I'm not sure if the point is working, but it's written Salted City. Big goggle eyes and they will be looking straight into your eyes. Also, what is important to remember is that spiders do not have composite eyes. Okay, like the insects, they have got simple eyes, right? We also have the wolf spiders. When you're out in your garden on grass, if there are little crevices around and little rocky surfaces around, you will definitely find wolf spiders around just next to it. Even they have got huge goggle eyes, but the arrangement is different. You will find homicids or crab spiders. All the legs will be in this shape all the time, like crabs. Those are found on flowers. Go out into your garden, just check the normal Chandni ke phool, the white ones, East Indian rose bay. You'll find plenty of homicids on them, at least in this season. The other family, which is pretty common, like I said, is Euloboridae. Surprisingly, very quiet, silent, non-venomous spider, but it is there in every corner of your home. All your homes must be filled with those long-legged spiders, which is from family Phalcidae. Okay, many would confuse them with the daddy long legs, but they are not daddy long legs. They are mostly from the family Phalcidae, Crossoprisa genus, and or Artema genus, sometimes Pholcus. 3 or 4 common genera we find from those for that particular family, and they are there in every corner of your home. If you look into your room and some cobwebs there, you will definitely find them. What is interesting to note is sometimes the female is carrying the egg sac with the mandibles. Imagine, we just see that, oh, acha, bacche hain, ande hain. Can you imagine all that while which it takes for the spiders to come out from the eggs or the babies to hatch? The mother does not feed. Coming to the next part, which is, okay, yeah, which is maternal care. So spiders, although they look so crazy and weird and sometimes dangerous for some people, they can be very, very strong and very, very protective parents. These are some of the characters we have been talking about. We will also try to explain a little about all of them. So we have already covered the silk part, that they are amazing weavers and architects. This is maternal care. Let us see. Okay, the silk part first. The first picture is that of silk henge. Silk henge is that which is created by a very tiny spider recently discovered in South American caves. Okay, and this particular structure which you see comes from the family Theridiidae, same as the Latrodectus or the black widow spider, the same family. This central region where you see a small cone with that kind of a long minaret-like structure is actually housing the eggs of the spider, which is why it has created a layer of protection around it. You know, we humans always pat our backs like the mother is everything for us, and the mother is such a huge epitome of all emotions under the sky. But these mute creatures are equally strong and protective mothers, strong and protective parents, like anybody else. Just that we keep saying it, they don't say it. So this is the spider which is actually created this particular silk henge, and this has famously got the name of silk henge because you can compare it with the other stone henge we already know. So these are little details which I have tried to put here about the strength of spider silk, which you can actually compare to, like I said, if a steel is pulled down into strings of the same ductility, this kind of fiber can actually be compared to the strength of the natural fiber, which is spider silk. They are mostly comparable, and this would be more durable than that. In fact, stronger than that. Some of the unmatchable spider webs or the architecture which is created by these particular tiny creatures can be seen on winter mornings when there is dew all around. And you simply have to go out with your camera and click these amazing pictures which give you the exact shape and the intricacy of the webs which are built. These are pictures with a phone only. I did not carry a DSLR that day. And you can see the inverted tent-like structures in both the pictures. One is an inverted dome, the other is an inverted tent. And all that irregular structure which actually holds different pieces of the web to hold it in place. This is the web of Citrophora spider, which is also called as an inverted tent web spider. The famous Argiope or the garden cross spider. This is also dew laden, and that makes it even more beautiful. So mostly silk is a property in spiders because they have different silk glands. We have rumbling clouds there. Okay. This is particularly the most important lifeline of the spider because it would help, the silk helps it to sometimes fly across the vegetation, to stick to different places like we have seen in the Spider-Man movie, and also wrap the prey. So whatever is created as a beautiful geometric structure is mostly to help the prey get stuck into the place so that they can immediately run and catch it. Otherwise, they also use silk to wrap egg very carefully and stick it to a safe surface till the babies can balloon out of it. Why I say balloon? Because the babies will basically be bursting out of the egg sac when it is about a web builder and would just fly in different directions, almost with the lifeline of a silk thread, and stick to different plant surfaces or vegetation parts to start a life of their own. That's how it happens in the world of spiders. That's how their life goes on. Like I was saying, they are intent mothers. All these pictures you see has got a mother spider, I'm sorry, guarding the egg sac. In the first one, which almost looks like an ant, is a ant mimicking spider, obviously. The other one, this is a mirror spider or Meotipa in genus. So here you see, you cannot make out if this is the spider abdomen or the spider is this side. This is kind of trying to save itself from predation also. You see glass-like legs which are completely transparent on the leaf surface, and fine thin silk is there to which it tries to adhere itself. This is a lynx spider which is trying to hold the egg sac beneath its carapace, beneath the on the ventral side of the body. This is also a Oxyops or Oxyops shweta, according to the color, which is also guarding the egg sac. This is a wolf spider from Pardosa genus. This one at the right bottom is a Pisauridae or a fishing spider, which is trying to guard its egg sac. But this is sadly in a artificial condition, not in the nature condition, which we have tried to bring and rear the eggs. So that was part of my study. Okay. We do not have spiders drinking water exactly, but they mostly take whatever water is needed from the body of the prey itself. Like I said, they would mostly drink the whole meal and suck it up rather than chewing. So all that goes in is from the body of the prey. So these are some of the pictures, all of them taken by me only, and where they exhibit extraordinary maternal care. So most of the time, spiders would go hungry and sometimes starve to death. Yeah, so the other interesting fact coming up is we have examples of sacrificing mothers. In fact, in the whole animal kingdom, as far as I have studied zoology, I have not seen I have not seen animals who would sacrifice their whole body, their whole life for the babies this way. So let me introduce you to one of the most interesting spiders, which I have had the chance to also delve a little deeper into and study about, which is the Ericidae family or Stegodipus social spiders. These spiders would mostly make a collective web and stay together in tunnels. So they have got a huge, messy web structure, which is sticky on the outside. So every insect which gets stuck is meal for them. Part of them, I mean, another species in this particular family would make silk like this or webs like this, huge ones. The one I had encountered was more than 5 feet in length. It was tied to one end on a teak branch, and the bottom was touching the ground, sticking to a particular boulder which was there below. So why do they make this? Because this covers the whole area. Whoever passes through or flies through would get stuck. Different spider species, the type of web would be different. Now, what is different, what is common about these social spiders is all of them would sleep to death, okay, when they rear their babies. So this is a little shabby picture although, but this is where the sac of the spider has the mother's body, which is almost dead. So what do? They lay a particular egg sac, cover it with silk, make a whole nest out of it, out of silk, and then they slither themselves inside and just keep waiting. This is again a matter of research as to how death comes upon the spider. It is, some suggest that this is basically like lysosomal activity happens inside a cell. It is autosuicidal. Some others also opine that these babies, when they come out of the egg sac, they start feeding on the mother and she's just eaten alive, which is a less possible hypothesis. So the spider basically goes into a state of suspended animation. None of the body functions would work. But see how intricate nature is. The spider there, the mother spider, would exactly die around the time when the babies are about to come out so that it does not decay. There is no fungus. There is no anything which will be causing harm to these particular animals. Okay. That is the intricacy with which nature tries to design its creatures and the behavior around it. So that is a particular nest on the rightmost corner you see where the try to rear that particular nest and then release the babies into nature. And these are the spiders which you find, which is basically Stegodipus. Again, if you have a thorny scrub forests around, mostly they would be found there. Sometimes teak forests also have Stegodipus, and they are very strong bioindicators. If the air isn't pure there, the sticky webs would not be there around because they would accumulate a lot of dust. So they will typically prefer dust-free environment, and forest outskirts or trails are very good places to find them. This is a little more about that when I was trying to photograph sequentially how the mother actually changed position. And by the time the babies were out, like you saw in the previous picture, here also you can see a little number of babies around. All the legs were severed from the body and it was turned upside down. However gory it may appear or however gruesome it may sound, that is how nature is designed. So many times we see how, what do I say? um, how strongly grotesque nature can be when you look at lambs being preyed upon by leopards and wildebeests being preyed upon by lions, so on and so forth. So in nature it's a rule, but here this is more of sacrifice. There is no predation, no nothing. It's mostly purely sacrifice, and this is how it is called matriphagy, where the mother is eaten up by the children or the babies to get the first meal of protein of their life. Okay, so cannibalism, like I said, is seen in some of the spiders. So mostly when you see the spider male being a little tiny animal that mostly serves for the cause of inseminating the female, and then mostly it has got no particular purpose, which is how sometimes it is mistaken as a meal. Many theories also opine that after the female mates, it needs a load of protein because of which the male is basically eaten up. But the male is not the only source of protein left for the spider. So mostly it is mistaken as a prey and is eaten up. So in the web dwellers, mostly web dwellers in the sense the ones which which build a web, we see this particular behavior prominently. But the large bodied spiders in which dimorphism is not so clear, like in wolf spiders, you will not be able to tell a male from a female just by the size. So in those cases, cannibalism is not prominent. So mostly in the ones where you see silk being woven around, cannibalism is seen. So Theridiidae family, Arachnidae family, where they build webs to hang around, that is where we see sexual dimorphism more prominently. This is a classical case, like I told you, goggle eyes. It means it is a salticid. This is a very famous salticid, which we call as Portia, which basically feeds, it's an arachnophage, which means that it eats up spiders. It would target spiders on webs and try to throw itself onto them and then try to eat them up. So this particular spider predates upon other spiders. So it's a spider eating spider, which is called Portia. We all remember Portia from Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, isn't it? But this Portia is world apart from the other one. Okay. These are the kleptoparasites which I was telling you would inhabit this particular gorgeous web of Nephila. Here is the tiny theridid from Argyrote genus, Theridiidae family, whereas this is Arachnidae family, trying to live its entire life as a kleptoparasite on the web of Nephila. So this is how a mating season in the life of a spider would look like. There would be a lot of males competing to have a chance to mate with a female, which is potentially ready to actually lay eggs. And this would actually go and inseminate the female. Sometimes they are so crazy that they would leave a part of the pulp, which actually goes into the body of the female, stuck there so that no other male can come and do the business once again. Okay, it's called a mating plug. Many other orders and taxa has also, we also see the same. Mostly, I think dragonflies have this particular behavior. The males would go and stick a part of the pulp or the basic part which mostly is used for insemination, they would go and just break it there. So insemination is over, which is why it is said that mostly insemination is the job which is for which they are meant. So after that, they do not mate once again, and they die after this particular phenomenon happens. So they would stick that particular part there. It stays there and plugs the female's genital openings so that no other male can pass on the genes. That is how they can protect their genes from being tampered with, or being messed up with, that they would not like many other vertebrates also we see. They would kill the other babies if it is not the same. The same thing, conserving your genes is important to pass it on into the next generation. That's what happens. Okay, these are some of the crazy spiders which exhibit mimicry. Most of you would go ahead and say that these are ants, but these are spiders. Here, there is this only picture on the central image is an ant which mimics spiders which look alike. These are other spiders from genus Myrmearachna in different families. So this is family Salticidae. This one belongs to family Thomicidae, Amiaceae. This particular animal is a ant-eating spider from family Zodaridae. This one is what do we call it? Sac spiders or ground runners. This is from family Porinidae. All of them look like ants. They would mimic ants. So because ants are such fighters, such survivors, spiders went on to evolve some of themselves into looking like ants. So this particular interesting character or Amiaceae particular animal would go and live in the colony of these red ants and kill them and eat them also. So pretty smart. They've evolved into looking like them and also predating on them. That is how it is mimicry. Okay. What does this last picture look like? Does it appear to you like the eyes of a toad? So if you look at it inverted, I mean, I've placed the image a little different way, but if you look at it inverted, it exactly resembles like the eyes of a toad sometimes. They also mimic bird poop many times. They also mimic trash. So there is a trash line spider. I'm not sure if I have put that here. There is a trash line spider which would actually mimic trash and build a whole little trash line into a thread-like structure, sit in the middle of it. And nobody in the world can make out that there is a spider hiding in the center. Mostly from the genus Cyclosa. You can go back and Google all these names. I know it would be a little tricky for you to remember in the first class itself. But if you can catch any of these names like Nephila, Cyclosa, or ant mimicking spiders, just go back and do a little fact finding about them. You will be pleasantly surprised to learn. Okay, so who predates upon spiders? We have talked so much about the glory. Now, so these are spider hunters. We don't like those words at all. So there are spider hunters who would try to actually eat up spiders, however not nice it sounds. There are dragonflies and damselflies sometimes who would pick up spiders, hunt spiders, and the opposite has also happened, that spiders easily would kill dragonflies and damselflies, so they eat each other. Wasps, spider wasps, like it is famously known, can actually sting spiders and put them into a state of suspended animation or just coma. They go into ICU. They are just half dead. Interesting thing about the wasp spiders is, or the spider wasps is, they do not eat those spiders. Their babies do. So what do? Is they pick up these spiders, put them into the nest, stuff that whole nest and seal it, whether with mud or anything else. They would simply seal them. Potter wasps mostly, they would put spiders inside and again seal it with mud. Scorpions are also known to eat away spiders. So 7% of the arthropoda, basically the animal kingdom, controls 73% of the class Insecta in the same phylum. If the spiders do not exist, agricultural pests would simply mow down your pests or your crops. and the other vegetation which is out there. Because insects are fast multipliers, we need equally vibrant and equally strong predators to control pests. And some spiders can eat away gallons of insects in a particular month only, in a span of 30 days. So every day, so many insects are controlled by one particular spider, which is how they are crucially important in a tiny ecosystem. Okay, there are some more questions. I need to check them. Let us finish because maybe we are running out of time and then we can take a few questions. Is that fine, Manoj? Kindly indicate when we are done with it because I'm just going on and on. Please indicate when it is time and when I need to stop. So they are ace predators like I have already shared. And here you can see this particular wasp which has taken down a bee which is almost double its size. Okay. Then there is this particular spider which is called Siler, very colorful one, and it has taken down an ant equally, its size or sometimes larger than them. Spiders are very capable of taking down prey which is larger than their own size. So some of the master hunters. This is family Rhinopidae, also called as net casting spiders. So you see my spiders are so diverse. They can cast a net exactly like a fisherman. On the right side, you can see an Australian species. The main picture is that of an Indian species, which is Asianopus leucensis, I'm sorry. The other one on the right side, where the net is actually visible, which it's about to cast, is clearly a net caster which tries to hang itself upside down, hold the nest like that, and just cast it on the prey when it finds something potential to be caught, which is why they are called net casting spiders. So my friends in Kabini, they always keep reporting about these spiders very commonly. Even in Odisha, we have reported them. They are there almost everywhere. You need to be a little careful while observing because they would mimic dead sticks in the forest. Sometimes would dangle just like that, and would not even look like a spider. Even they have got huge goggle eyes and would look straight. So large animals, I mean, quite stick-like, but you can see them mostly when the net is there. Okay. I'm not sure if this video plays. Yeah, it's playing. This is not my video, of course, and this has got a, you know, an Australian link, but I want you to see the behavior in which this basically makes the nest and the geometric structures it tries to create only to catch a meal. This is family Dinopidae for you. I'm not sure if the audio works, but yeah. So this is how it would rest in a particular static position, waiting for the prey to appear and keep watching intently, like how fast. There you go. You will see it in slow motion once again. Just check. You see those strands of silk being pulled out from the spinnerets to spin against, along the prey, across, around, about the prey. That is basically how they would go and predate. This is a net casting spider, the Australian species. The same thing is done by the Indian relatives also. That's the meal, the dinner is set. Okay, we go ahead to the next one. This is camouflage, like mimicry. Camouflaging is one more a very important one. I would like all of you to look into the first picture and the one below it. It's very difficult to find out. When you look with closed, squinted eyes, it is difficult for you to make out if there is a spider there. But the one which has got these doctor-like symbol, with that neural canal kind of a symbol there, that particular animal is the Neoscona or the garden spider, which is trying to take refuge in a environment which exactly resembles its body color. So who tells them what color to actually wear? No, it's something very interesting to think about. Look at this thomicid. I told you, your garden flowers will always have one thomicid waiting for you to be discovered. This is a thomicidae This is a thomisus or a thomicid spider, which is there on a tiny little flower, and the spider exactly takes up the same color as that of a flower. Sometimes they have been reported to be able to change the color also, but partially. You cannot expect a white spider to become black. That doesn't happen. But white can change over into light yellow, from light yellow into light green, and merge themselves with the background. So here in the second picture, left bottom picture, you see there is a two-tailed spider almost camouflaged or merged into its habitat. This is also a very commonly found spider, which is called the two-tailed bark spider or Hersilia, commonly seen. And it's like it will blind you in plain sight. You cannot find it on the bark until and unless you create some kind of disturbance. It will again scramble across and run up, from here to there. That is when you can actually see it. This is one very important spider, which is basically there in paddy farms, in paddy fields. And can you see how nicely, like a stick insect, it's sticking all along a blade of grass, and you will not be able to make out unless and until you go actually very close to it and find out that it has got 8 legs, all in the prayer pose. None of them sticking out. Okay, some more camouflage for you. If you can find the spiders. So look at the yellow picture. Can you see the female there? All of you? Please respond yes or no in the chat box.
On the left side. On the left side.
Yes. But there is a spider on the right side also in the same
Right side.
picture.
Yeah.
That is the male hiding. Can you see that the female is resembling the petal, which is the larger part of the flower? The male, whereas, is resembling the stamen and the anther, which is there in the center of the flower. Because it's a tiny one, it resembles the darker part of the flower and is there sticking. Here, can you see my pointer? This is the male. So all of us can clearly see the female, but here the male is also sticking close to it. This is a bark spider and is a, it's called Darwin's bark spider or Cairostris genus. Until and unless you go and disturb it, nobody on the planet can tell you that this is not a protruding piece of the wood or bark, but it is rather a spider which is there. And this particular animal here on the top right, you see is a famous spider called Poultice. In the Western Ghats, we have some of these particular animals which can resemble bugs, which can resemble a broken stamen or a dried flower. They can just mimic anything under the sky. I told you they mimic bird poop also. Some spiders mimic snails. Some spiders mimic tadpole eyes. You know, you just name it and they can mimic. The ladybird beetle spider is so common and so not common, but very known to all of us. Go back and search for Paraplectana. That is the genus of the spider which resembles the ladybird. And literally, if it sits legs closed, you simply cannot make out that whether it's a, the ladybird, this thing, or a spider. This one here on concrete road, which is actually tried to take up some of the colors of the ones which are there around it, is a rene or a salticid spider again. But it's so tiny and it would lie like as if it's all dead right there that you will hardly be able to make out that it is actually a spider. These are some of the other pictures. I've taken them from my friends Sujit and Christopher. This is a mirror spider. Imagine at night on web, this is something like that, which is glittery, is trying to shine, and it also reflects sometimes. So this is particularly glass-like, or we also call it as mirror spider from the curious genus of Theridiidae, family of Theridiidae. So they make irregular webs, the same family as that of widow spiders, like I say. This is Phytacia. Sometimes also from Meotipa genus, we find such kind of creatures. Can you see that extremely translucent or transparent, carapace or the prosoma of the spider, the head of the spider, and completely transparent legs also. So all you see is this particular structure. This is a way to ward off predators, which is why they appear so glittery. On the left is again a pair of stegodifus spiders, which is there. This is the male and this is the female of stegodifus. This is tibialis species, and they make this cozy little nest and stay together. So the male and female dimorphism is not always about size, sometimes about color also. Ah, this is one of my favorite pictures. The one which I'm pointing out right now looks like a bark, is basically a poultice. The one on the top, which resembles a stamen or a dried, flower twig, is basically Arachnura or a scorpion-tailed spider. This is a spiny back or gastercantha, which looks nothing like a spider. And this particular gentle woman, not a man, which is sitting folded hands with the legs folded like that, is from family Sparasidae, Nathopalistus genus. Can you see, like, if you put these animals together, some people who are laymen and not naturalists would not even put them together under one taxa. They are so different and so variant from each other. Okay, varied in life forms. In fact, the whole morph of it is different. And the one up on the top, sometimes it doesn't even look like a living creature. Forget about a bug or a beetle or a spider. It looks like a dry twig or a flower piece which is there sitting somewhere. This is something which I don't like to miss. Oh, okay. Can you see the spider on the right side? I'm sorry, I revealed it to you. But what does it exactly mimic or look like? Any answers? I'll be happy to see the chat box beaming with answers this time. Snail, no. It's already there. Okay, my bad. The slide had to appear a little late. Anyway, this is basically a pelican mimicking spider. I mean, what on earth would have actually forced a spider to look like a pelican? I mean, nothing at all comes as a reason why a spider would actually mimic a pelican. Can you see that beak-like structure? So these spiders have become really rare, found in Madagascar in the African continent, not yet reported elsewhere. And this particular structure of the mouth part, which you see, resembles that of the pelican, which mostly dip their beak into the water bodies to feed. They don't dip themselves anywhere to feed, but somehow they have evolved themselves to look like this. The only reason we find why it would look like this is to appear different, weird, and ward off predators. That's all. Babies and ballooning. I have shown you some of the interesting pictures here, which are those of eggs when they are laid inside an egg sac. Some of the eggs which have been infected by mites and did not survive, the babies which come out, and here is one of the infecting mites which is attached to the egg surface. Okay, these are babies which are ready to balloon and come out of the egg sac. These are some of the pictures of the egg sac. This is a gravid female, Eriovixia. You can make out a gravid female when the size of the spider will be a little large. You have to be having a comparative sense for that. But also, as a matter of ethics, we practice never to touch animals which are gravid because, or they are laden with eggs, because they would be in tremendous pressure to lay those eggs out and be free from that whole, pressure of parturition or whatever you can call it. Okay, we will leave the wasp story to another time because that is again a huge story. Thank you everyone for your patience. I will try and play some of the videos if it is possible. This is from a very, what do I say? A close friend of mine and a very famous photographer of Southeast Asia, Nikki Bay. Look at this thomisus, which is called Platithomisus, and how it actually appears if you close the legs. onto one side, you will not be able to even make out that this is a spider. Okay. Sadly, I don't have the paraplectana picture here, but please go back, people, and do Google paraplectana to find a pleasant surprise for yourselves. Thank you so much. I hope I have been able to pull you into this whole small world of arachnophiles, where we also are trying to do a little towards their conservation and towards studying natural history. You all are most welcome to visit us. We are based at Bhubaneswar in the Regional Museum of Natural History, and you are open to ask me questions or write back emails about these interesting and wonderful creatures if it ever occurs to you. I'll be happy to take a few questions, and I'll open the chat box to see if there are any of the things which have tried to click with people.
I saw one or two interesting questions. There was one about jumping spiders. There's
Okay.
one about can spiders be used
Yeah,
against
somebody, I think
locusts?
it's Mr. Sharma's question. Today we saw a wasp carrying a spider at the natural. Wow. Please follow this wasp and try to find out where it actually takes the spider. You will be pleasantly surprised to see it. I have cleverly saved the wasp stories for another session, Manoj. Please let me speak to your audience once again. I will be happy to give them the glory of the stories intertwined between animal-animal interaction and what exactly happens to the spiders which are carried away by wasps. You will
It's
be shocked to know the results. I
it's an
do not
amazing.
normally
Yes.
promote animal cruelty, but if you can sometime turn back the laden wasp nest, and for once, if you have a crowd together, please show them what happens and put it back to the wall, paste it with a little bit of, white cement or whatever is possible, and just put it back so the babies can come out. You will be pleasantly surprised with what comes out of those potter wasp nests.
It is amazing. It is amazing. So I can see a question which is where did I lose it? Just a minute. Can spiders be used against locusts? This is by Ajay.
Ajay sir asking the question is from my place itself. Thank you, sir, for joining the talk. Well, spiders, though, can be very strong predators against crop pests, but when we have swarming or infestation in huge numbers, we then cannot use one particular creature or one particular animal to plot against them as predators. So locusts, like are huge in size and they never appear in any farm or field in numbers like 5, 10, 6, 20. They always come in numbers like we had few years back in Pakistan, in this part of, in the northwest of India also, some parts of Gujarat and Rajasthan also saw this. The locust swarming happens. That happens mostly when there is huge humidity and, the heat actually matches the amount of water vapor in particular areas. Many other reasons are associated. Spiders cannot be used as the particular predator which can control locusts. No, they can't, because they are huger in, like, larger in size and lot many in number. But when you look at a general farm, let's say a orchard or a paddy field or even sugarcane fields, banana plantations, there, if there are edges in your farm where there are other trees other than the monoculture or the particular major plantation crop, then you have more space and more refuge area for the spiders to dwell, which is why they control the pests easily. But if there is an infestation as such, even if you look at the brown plant hoppers and the green plant hoppers, if they are in swarming numbers, probably all spiders cannot control so as to kill each and every insect. But presence of spiders does make a difference against having no spiders at all. That much I can say.
Right. Thank you. I have another question that I can see. This is by Dheeraj Dulipeta. There is a recent find that spiders exist in Arctic regions. Is it true?
In Arctic regions.
Yes. That's the question.
Okay. So as of now, I'm not aware if there is any spider which has been found in the Arctic regions. But if there is one, we will be very glad to learn about it, because as far as I understand, spiders always typically avoid the very, very harsh climatic conditions in the Antarctic and the Arctic. So those are the two places where we haven't found spiders. But given the global warming and the temperature surge, if there is something which has happened out of, exception, we will be glad to know about it. Kindly enlighten me. I'll be very happy to learn.
Okay, based on this question, my question is, uh, which is the nearest region to the Arctic? Because we're talking about the North Pole, so there are near-Arctic regions. Which would be the nearest places to the North Pole, we would say, where there would be spiders?
I think we do not have any demarcation as such that only Greenland, Finland, Helsinki won't have spiders or something like that. But wherever there is sunshine available, we should be able to have spiders, unless and until it is snow-capped all throughout the year.
Right.
Those places do not have vegetation enough, so they are cold desert-like places where we will not have enough, you know, uh, prey base. So spiders are mostly driven by their prey animals. If you have insects, which is mostly around the tropics and the equator, which is why we have most diversity around the tropics and the equator. That whole, region between the both the tropics, including the equator, is where we find the most diverse species of all other animals as well as spiders.
Which is true for almost everything.
Yes.
Another question I can see is from one of the participants called Acer. Uh, May I please know the average lifespan of a spider? Do different spiders and species have different lifespans?
Okay, Acer also asks one more important question that you have mentioned. Spiders have simple eyes. Do they see color? That's a very, very interesting question. I'll take both of them. So the first question I missed, Mr. Sharma, could you please repeat?
Yeah, may I please know the average lifespan of a spider? Do
Okay.
different sizes and species have different lifespans?
Um, I did not get the second part though, but lifespan of the spider is mostly around 2 years to 3 years, and it depends upon which family are we talking about. So the smaller spiders would live comfortably for a year and more, whereas the large bodied spiders, or the tarantulas, which I have also touched upon in my presentation, or the mygalomorphs, like we say, which has got huge spines on their legs and are hairy, and they would appear as big spiders. They can live up to 15 to 20 years. So it differs from family to family. Like I said, the male has got a lifespan only till it can inseminate the female. So within 1 year, the male will die. Whereas the female, I'm talking about the smaller spiders or the arachnomorphs, there it will exist, the female will exist for a year or two, but the male will die after just one insemination. That is how the lifespan is a very tricky subject when we talk about. It differs from different family to family. And mostly the arachnomorphs, we can safely say that would live for a year or more, let's say 2 years around. But the mygalomorphs can definitely sustain for more than 10 years comfortably. Okay, the next
Uh,
question. Spiders have simple eyes. Do they see color? Yes, they do see color, which also again differs from different families. So the arachnomorphs, on which Portia actually jumps and kills, which I have shown you, they do not see well, which is why they have the tool of silk to use to their advantage. So silk is basically with which they sense. But if you look at the others, which is like, let's say, salticids, homicids, they can make out color, which is why they can understand what exactly is their surrounding like, which is why they can also sometimes change or shift a bit of the chromatophores into a different color, wanting to mimic with the environment. So it's very family specific thing, let's say. But from the eyes, you can make out if they are good observers and they can make out about colors or not. There is a very interesting piece of research. I'll share it with Mr. Sharma and he can maybe propagate the same across the crowd. That is, I think, being done in a very good university in Southeast Asia. I don't remember the university exactly, probably Singapore. I will tell you the name of the researcher and the work which is being done on the vision of spiders. I will also like you to go and see Chrysilla, which is a beautifully colored rainbow color spider, which also exhibits dance like that of Maritus, which is a peacock spider found in Australia. Too much of jargon, too much of names, crowd. I know that, but I was so excited to tell you all of that. Please go back and hunt for peacock spiders flooded with videos across Instagram. You would love to see them. The Indian version of it would be Chrysilla. Okay,
Please share
I will.
that
I will.
research. Thank you. I can see another question from Agastya uh, about specifically tarantulas. Tarantulas typically have much longer lives,
Yes.
some reaching 30 years. So that's very interesting.
Safely, we can say that beyond 15 years, they do survive. So, yeah.
Then Varsha is asking, ma'am, could you please tell some of the areas that can be / needs possible researched under?
Varsha, there are amazing fields still left virgin for you to study. We welcome you into arachnology. Please come, pick our brains. We are happy to help you out. And there will be ample area of research where very less work has been done. So, welcome to arachnology.
Priya is asking a question. I saw an emigrant butterfly lay eggs on a plant, and when I came back after some time, 3 of the eggs on the tender leaves had disappeared. And then I realized that there was a small green spider that was sitting in the same place instead. It
Oh,
immediately moved away down.
oh.
So could there be a correlation? Possibly.
Okay, there are so many questions I see now. Oh my God. Okay. So what happens with animals is spiders would not eat a meal which is static. They are pretty good hunters. So they would always chase and go and catch the animal and eat it. Unless and until they are starving out of hunger, they would not go ahead and pick a meal which is just lying dead over there. So most of them won't feed on the eggs. They would rather take down the butterfly, which makes a small meal for them. Even crickets, even grasshoppers, ones with the huge legs, I mean, no staunch, strong legs, they won't care. They just, the mandibles do the action. You saw those bees which they were trying to cling into. I mean, just clasp them down, bring them down with their mandibles. They have got particularly very strong jaws and cheliceraal mouth parts. Once एक बार वो जबड़े में पड़ गया तो बस कहानी खत्म.
Yeah, like I've seen them, catching small caterpillars and sucking on them and leaving that body as it is on the leaf.
Yes,
But
caterpillars, they can do that.
yes,
But
but
eggs,
this
most of the spiders
within
won't go ahead and
this
find.
was within not even half an hour.
Oh,
There were so many eggs on the tender leaves. I went and came back. By the time three of them, at least 3 of the eggs had disappeared. And the
oh.
spider, I didn't realize the spider was there because it was the same color as the leaf. It was a small green
Ah,
spider. And when I tried to, pick up and look at the leaf, I suddenly realized the spider is there and it ran off down.
oh, okay. So what happens is when the spiders are pretty young, let's say it is just ballooned out of an egg sac, sometimes it so happens that they look for opportunistic meals because they are pretty young and they also mostly would not be able to hunt for themselves. So that could be the case. And sometimes they would look for an easy meal that way when they are themselves typically vulnerable and pretty young to make a proper hunt or a kill for themselves. So yes, it's possible.
So like I was wondering what happened to the eggshells. Like I've usually seen it leaving the caterpillar's body and only
Okay, so if
sucking
the
the
eggs
thing.
have disappeared, I'd like to tell you, Priya, these
Huh.
particular caterpillars, when they hatch out of the eggs, they have this behavior. Mostly the butterfly caterpillars, they would come out of the eggs and eat the eggshell
Yes.
themselves.
Yeah, but these 3 were just laid and the spider was there. So I was just wondering how it fed, how was it possible to feed on it and whether it fed on it? That was the,
Okay, so
question
maybe
I
we'll
had
have
in
to
my
make a
mind.
video out of it to find out how exactly this would have
Because it happened
gone.
within a very short while. So I was
Mm.
wondering, there was no
But
other possible way of
normally,
it disappearing. It had just
no,
been laid.
normally when a spider eats something, do they completely feed on it, or do they
No, they also leave
cut
back
off
debris.
foods? Yeah,
Yes, they leave back debris because mostly the exoskeleton, let's say beetles, they won't be able to eat up everything. So
correct,
whatever is sucked out of the body is the insides of it. The
correct.
outer exoskeleton is left out. So many
That's
times
right.
it happens, and she has nicely observed that the caterpillar, all of the caterpillar won't be eaten. The spiny parts, those hair-like structures, they'll be left out. So the
Correct.
outer skin is
I
left,
will
and
take
the
a minute.
inside of it is taken away.
Your chai. May I ask a question?
Sir, please go ahead.
What is the gestation period of these eggs?
Sir, it depends from different families. It
Okay.
differs from family to family, like I said. Mostly
Oh.
it's around 20 days, 21 days. Some take a little longer. Some can also be hatching out within a 15-day period. So we have seen
Oh.
different animals hatching, I mean, different species hatching at different times. So we safely say it is around 15 to 20 days on an
Thank you.
average.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I can see a question from Vinita. Is there a good 19th century reference book on Indian spiders?
Yes, we do
Probably,
have some of the books which have come out on Indian spiders. One is by a bunch of my friends itself, the spider genera of India. They have tried to cover all the genera which is found because in India we have got close to 2000 species of spiders which have been already discovered. Oh, somebody is telling me about Bagheera Kiplingi. Yes, Madam or Sir, whoever just pointed it out. It's a vegetarian spider, like they say, but we have more to it. It is not just that. So yeah, I'm aware about it. There is also a diving bell spider which would carry a bubble of air with it and dive down like a scuba diver. So you will be completely surprised as to what all areas the spider has explored, from air to water to subterranean regions to sand to every other place. You name it and they are there, which is
okay.
why we comfortably say they are omnipresent.
I have read, uh, as I remember, that sometimes they also migrate on air currents,
Yes,
the
yes. And
spiders.
they primarily do it.
Yeah,
They
and
don't
they
do it.
cover long distance.
Yes. So this particular, I have shown you the dinopedy, pulling out that silk to wrap the prey, isn't it? So the same way they would like to just spread the silk. And I have shown you one of the bark mimicking spider, which is Kerostris. It is said that it can have silk threads, which is the hangline silk, which we call it as the lifeline of the spider, almost 25 meters.
My
It
God.
can just throw silk up to that length. So some parts of it is just unbelievable until and unless you see it in your directly, you see it and experience it live. So they can actually throw silk to long places where silk just gets stuck, and they would cleverly pass through. Sometimes they have crossed rivers. So the Darwin's bark spider is basically famous for that particular reason.
Right. The question Vinita had initially asked was, is there a good 19th century reference book on Indian spider? Then she further asks, I asked because 19th century illustrations are very beautiful works of art. So is
Well,
there
art,
something?
I'm not very sure about art, but what is important for the spiders is the illustrations of the genitalia. So when you have to go, I did not go very deep into taxonomy in this particular talk because I knew the crowd was not, intently meant for only spider business. So I kept it a little laymanish. But if she is interested to know about more about taxonomy, I can give her the links of the books which are available, and also the illustrations, which is less of art but more of depiction and sketches through which we see the pictures of the genitalia of each species, with which we can differentiate and identify species also.
Okay, Kishore is asking a question. Uh, One question, how is it possible? Just a minute. How is it possible? For example, ant mimicking spider, is it that they have seen ants like you and me and modified themselves in evolution to look like them?
Well,
So is
that's
this
a very
is
nice question and a very difficult one too,
answer?
because although spiders can see well as we do, in fact more angles than we do, because we have binocular vision, they have I mean, I don't know how many vision. They can see the back sides also. The eyes are so nicely placed. But whether did they see the ants and evolve is something which is, we need to probe deeper into it. You don't see something and evolve. Today, if I feel like becoming a giraffe, my generations won't become giraffe-like because I just so want to. Doesn't happen that way. So evolution is something which does not happen over a period of, let's say, 10 years, 20 years. It takes years together for evolution to happen and be effective, on your morphology. So what must have triggered is the necessity to predate. So like I said, they would live in the ant colonies and predate on them. Now, one is the trigger to feed. So predation is one. The other is mimicry. So to live amongst ants and not and look like a spider, they will all, because ants are never few in number, they are in large colonies. So they will immediately take you down. So if you have to live around them, you have to look like them. It's a very simple rule. So what triggered what is again a question which needs to be asked to history, and maybe some kind of DNA sequencing can reveal that answer for us. As of now, we just know that it is the urge to feed and predate which made spiders, I mean, some of the spiders look like ants, live amongst them, and also predate. And it is not just one family from Salticity, which is the ant mimicking spiders which look like ants, okay? There are multiple families which would mimic ants. Some are ant eaters, some are ant mimicking, some follow the ants into their colonies. So they are, different. And none of the spiders would live in colonies except the social spider, which is Stegodipus. They are all individual, He-Man-like creatures. They would live alone, die alone, do everything individually, all alone.
We are flooded with questions, but let
Yes,
me.
I have pasted my email because I can see there are lots and lots of
Okay,
questions.
we'll
I'm not
just
sure
pick up. We'll
if
just
you
pick
can, accommodate all
relevant
of them.
ones. My God.
Priya, you're most welcome to come and eat my head. Thank you.
So I'll just read this out. This is from Denmark. Greetings from Denmark. This is
Oh, wow.
Lisa Vandal. Greetings from Denmark, where I can confirm we have loads of spiders this year despite a cold climate. Very small and less colorful though. Thanks to this very interesting talk, I will now try to do my very best not to kill them despite my arachnophobia. That's wonderful. That's your
So
contribution to the world.
he at least confesses that he has got the phobia. 4 more sessions of my talk, I can guarantee you won't be arachnophobic anymore.
No. So with this, I would, take your permission to close this session. But before we do
Absolutely.
so,
What a session it has been, my God.
it's been amazing. And we
Yeah.
had very good participation and active participation.
Absolutely.
So this is just the beginning of our Jungle Secrets series. And we are excited to bring you many more such, presentations on different subjects during the coming months. Please, you know, follow us on our social media handles, because this is where you will find all the information about what is coming next. For example, we are doing 2 more sessions with Devi this month. The next session is on 25th. Then we have one on 31st. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more interesting facts to learn, interesting information to gather about spiders. So I'm Manoj Sharma, Chief Naturalist, Jim's Jungle Retreat, signing off now. Thank you very, very much, Devi, for doing this for us. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I'm so glad to make arachnophobics into arachnophilics.
Wonderful. And thank you all the participants for being with us. Thank you very much.